So we go into the hospital, and the Italian interpreter tells the doctors, they're like, hey, this American soldier was shooting at a range, and we think there might be a piece of metal in his chest somewhere. So they go in, they put me in, the CAT scan. So I'm in there for a long time, like 45 minutes. And by this time, the American doctor showed up from the base, and he's a friend of mine. And I come out of there, and he goes, Tony, how you doing? I go, yeah, I'm okay. He goes, no, you're not okay. We got a problem. Yeah, you got a little piece of metal, a bullet fragment. It looks like it skidded along your left anterior descending. It cut through your left ventricle, and it's sitting in your septum on the left ventricle side.
The heart.
It's sitting, it's in the heart. So
Oh,
it's sitting in the septum. So it's vibrating, and it's sitting in there. And they're like, yeah, they're going to do open heart surgery right now. Do you want to call anyone? And so I go, yeah, I'd like to call my mom. And I'm a warrior, but I want to call my mom.
what you just heard was retired Chief Master Sergeant Tony Negron describing the moment doctors told him, you got a bullet fragment lodged in your heart, buddy. That story alone would be enough for several episodes, but it's only a fraction of who this man is. Tony served 26 years in the U.S. Air Force as a pararescueman, one of the few trained to go anywhere, anytime, and to bring others home. He rose up to become a pararescue functional manager for Air Combat Command, leading more than 700 PJs across 7 major commands. He's a 2-time Bronze Star and Purple Heart recipient, a JSOC veteran, and a leader who's carried the pararescue motto that others may live into business and life after the uniform. Today, he runs SEI, trains special operators, and through Fusion Cell and Reliant Critical Infrastructure, he's helping veterans find purpose-driven careers long after their service ends. I'll say this right up front. We had some technical difficulties while recording this conversation, so there's a few moments where the audio and video might dip and glitch and give us some trouble, but trust me, it's worth hanging in there. The stories, the lessons, and the heart behind this episode are undeniable. This is a conversation about resilience, purpose, and what it truly means to serve on and off the battlefield. Let's get into it. Tony Negron, business and combat tested leader. And we've got a lot to go over, but
Yeah.
today I'll try to make it short, sweet, and dig in. I've heard you say something that hit me hard. If you don't know what you want, start with what you don't want. And man, I got to say, that feels like a kind of line that comes from pain and challenges, from having to crawl through a life you didn't choose in the beginning, but eventually you found something that you wanted to do. So let me ask you this. When did you first realize you had to walk away from who you were in order to become who you are today?
Um, That's funny. That line, actually, I do use that line a lot. I would say that probably got imprinted in my head probably back when you and I were living in Elkhart, Indiana, and I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. But if you remember at the time, I always knew that I wanted to to get out of Indiana and just do something different. I wanted to go out and I wanted to explore. So I wasn't sure exactly.
You probably somewhere on your end, it flipped network connections and reset. So it just threw us into this loop on your
Oh, okay.
side with the volume. But folks, I'm going to lead that in so you can see how quickly Tony's leadership jumps in and helps us adapt to that.
Whatever. That sounds great. Okay. Leave that in. Yes.
All right, buddy.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You were saying,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So where I've really started to use that phrase more than anything, I think, I ended up doing 26 years in the military, but when I transitioned out of the military, I founded what's called the Pararescue Foundation. And because of that, it's helping a lot of guys transition out of the military. It always gets brought up, especially with military folks. Military folks, if they've done more than 10 years, 15 or 20, you might consider them institutionalized by then.
Mm.
And so what they want to do is you got to change their mindset, because they kind of want to find right out of the gate, out of the military, they want to find their next career. And so ultimately we end up talking about it, and I'm like, hey, look, that's really not the way it's going to work. You're probably going to go through 2 or 3 doors or even 4 doors before you find out. You got to learn the civilian system again, and there's a transition process. But I always tell them, I go, hey, it's no problem. It's okay to take a chance. Just figure out what you don't want to do, and that's where I think I brought it up to you. It's better, or it's fine not knowing exactly what you want to do. Just know what you don't want to do, and then take a chance in some other areas. And then you'll find that 2 or 3 doors removed, you'll probably end up where you were supposed to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But I would imagine, for a lot of them, even when you're out here in the civilian sector, it's often tough just to understand, like, what the hell is my purpose? Where do I find meaning? What do I want to do? And for your guys, all of you, to come out with, particular skill sets that, let me ask you this. How do you help vets translate and identify what their skill sets are, so that when they do go out in civvy world, it's easier for them to find what they would like to do? Because otherwise you could spend years finding out what you don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, the most important thing is it's funny, because I did this fusion cell. I think I told you I did fusion cell for about 5, 6 years, which was a transition company to help our veterans find jobs. And the mindset is the most important thing, is helping them get through the mindset, kind of what you and I were just talking about, because I had to learn a lot about the civilian sector also. And is that, while I was in the military, they've always told us, and they tell a lot of military folks that, hey, you have wonderful soft skills, not special operation force skills, but soft. You have soft things that civilians are looking for. You're a natural leader, or you're a growing leader. You're good with people, your management. You understand something larger than yourself. So you come from an organization like the military. It's altruistic in nature. But they tell you these soft skills are going to be phenomenal: how to be a leader, how to be a mentor. But the civilian sector doesn't actually hire for that, and you would know that better than me. But I used to think that. I'm like, well, I'm a leader of warriors. I was in the military. I got all these soft skills that, and not to say those aren't important. They absolutely are. They're absolutely important, 100%. But the point I'm trying to make is that the civilian sector hires for a unique set. Um, I'm looking for an engineer with these certifications. I'm looking for um, uh, this type of guy, and I want him to have these exact certifications. They're hiring for an open position. It's because the civilian sector is money based. Time is money, and you want to hire exactly for that type of job. So the biggest barrier that I think military folks run in is that while they're serving in the military, sometimes you don't get the certifications, because the military, when you're talking about the profession of arms and going to war, they're not they're not getting certifications along the way that are necessarily needed for war. Well, the civilian sector wants those certifications, so you might not get those certifications. So there's a gap.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a gap that the civilian sector doesn't want to pay for, because it's just, at the time it's a bridge too far. They don't have time to do that. They absolutely would love to have military, but they want your military to have exactly the certifications that they want you to have. And sometimes they don't want to pay for the time and the effort to get that bridge, connect that bridge and the gap of experience, if that makes sense.
Do you think, and I'm sure you've had conversations in your circles where maybe that's a gap that could be weaved into the DNA of going into the military, so when they're coming out, that they're more prepared? I mean, even in high school and colleges, we've got career offices that help transition students for work sector. I don't see why we shouldn't be, and we absolutely owe it to them to take veterans and prepare them and position them in the best possible place to go out into Civic and be success. I mean, to back up a little bit, I want to kind of touch on my experience is you are correct that many of the recruiters, or let's say hiring managers out here, I think they use an old system. And I used to call it the tombstone system. When you
Yeah.
look at these resumes, and resumes basically read off like tombstones, and it doesn't give you true insight. But in my experience, I would take a vet without certs all day long over the guy or girl that has the best certifications and the most experience, because I can give them certs. I can
Yeah.
get them trained, but to come in with the mindset and the ability to adapt under pressure and to problem solve. Oh my God. The lack of problem solving skills out here in Civi world is
Yeah.
amazing. Now they'll say they can problem solve. Yeah, you open a book and you give them a typical problem. Yeah, they solve it, but that's not what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh
Real
yeah.
world,
Yeah.
living in the gray, there's no black and white. How do you solve these problems quickly and adapt right on the spot? You throw someone in the fire. I want to hire a vet.
Yeah.
So, but do you think back to, is this a gap that maybe somehow government, DOD, somebody should be looking at maybe implementing and putting in place?
Well, absolutely. But you got to look at it this way. But you're spot on. And I don't know if the system's archaic in the sense of how it applies to civilians, but it is archaic, in my personal opinion, on how it applies to the military. Because if you think about it, less than 1% serve in the military. And we have this wonderful country that's built on, the Constitution, it's a capitalism, it's America, but what really has made this country phenomenal and made us a superpower, which gives people um an opportunity to run businesses, to not have a caste system, to rise from the top, to have immigrants come to our country, and no matter where they came from, they can be whatever they want to America. The military had a big part in that. And
Yeah.
anybody who thinks otherwise is completely wrong. So think about it this way: less than 1% serve in our military. And to think that those people who serve on active duty have to fight, struggle, um, when they go to get out, to fight for whatever they have to fight for, getting their VA, to their disability, but to even get a job,
Yeah.
to even get a job, it is absolutely 100% archaic, I think, as it applies to the military. The system long ago, when we were doing the draft, and I don't think the military, it's not nefarious. I don't think it's nefarious. I don't want to believe that because I was a 26-year veteran. So I absolutely I love the military. So I don't think that they meant to do it, and I don't think that they mean to do it. It's just the system's exactly what you said. It's an old, outdated system. So, what would be a better system? In my personal, humble opinion, what would be a better system to tie in the military? HR, all your HR departments across the civilian sector, they say they're military friendly and military ready. Most of those companies that say that, they truly are not. And there are some companies that probably are, but most 99.9 HR doesn't understand a
No.
military person. That, like, if unless you say you're a general, hey, I'm a 5-star general, a 4-star general, I'm General McChrystal or so and so getting out of the military, or you have a friend in a company and this and that. It's easy for somebody like you to go, hey, this is a 4-star general. I think he can lead people. I think he can
Thank you.
manage some people. I think, he ran the war, or the global war on terrorism. He was responsible. But when you start saying things like, hey, I was a chief, I was a petty officer, I was an E7, an E8, I was an operations superintendent, you, unless I'm wrong, are going to go, yeah, what's that mean? what's your purview of responsibility? What's that equate to, you
Yeah.
know? And so if Tony Negron was ever in charge and the president
Got my
or
vote.
yeah, and they said, hey, look at how would you revamp the military? This is the way I would revamp the military when it comes to taking better care of our people and transitioning out of the military and stuff like that. Um, this is how I would do it. If you imagine a ladder, a ladder
Yep.
that's got the vertical
And
stabilizers, and you got the rungs.
yep.
Okay, so on one side of the ladder would be the military, and it'd be all the military departments: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Command, everything in there would be in the military. And from top to bottom, it would go like, hey, traditionally you serve 4 years in the military, all the way up to 30, 30 plus years. And so on that side stabilizer, one side would be the military, and it would go top to bottom from 4 years all the way to 30 years. Okay. And those rungs would be your exits. It would be like, hey, 4 years. Traditionally, you
Ah,
do four. So
yeah.
4 years, 8 years, 16 years, all the way up. Or if it's not the rungs, it's hey, separation due to a medical
Right.
discharge, medical board, and this and that. And then on the other side, it would be companies.
Right.
And it would be companies. And the companies I would start with first are all the companies that have supported the military or made money from the military. Your Boeings, maybe turbocams, and people who are built on supporting the military. That's who I'd start with. Now you'd push to have every single company there. Um, and so they would be on the other side, and their HR departments would know and understand the military. They speak their language because HR has been read up on it. They understand that, hey, this guy said he's a captain. This guy said he's a major. He did this job in the military. And then what you could do is it would be truly life cycle. So when you join the military, you join to serve your country,
Brilliant.
but you could also go, you know what? I'm going to do 4 years and get out at 4 years, or I'm going to do 16 years. And you could actually know it'd be like a pipeline. So you're serving your
Yep.
country, but you're a pipeline into a company, a civilian company that you want to be in either 4 years down the road, 8 years, or 30 years down the road. And if you off ramp at the 4 years, you're entry level. Hey, you did 4 years in the military. You're kind of at the tactical level, what you and I call the intro level position, and you'd off ramp right into these said companies. But if you stayed around for 30 or 20, you could off ramp at a senior position and all those companies would understand that, like, hey, this guy did
That's
for
brilliant.
8 years, and this is what you do, and you connect the dots. So now the military and the civilian business and the civilian world are actually fused. So what's
Yeah.
that mean? It goes back to the point you're talking about. So these certifications they want you to have, sometimes I found out while I was serving in the military, I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. I just needed to do 6 hours here and I could have had the certification that's
Yep.
respected in the civilian sector. Hey, if I would have done 3 days over here, so all they have to do is now they're talking. So these companies that are going to be fed military people after they've served in the military, it's a full life cycle. And they're telling them, so you have turbocams, you have Boeings, Lockheed Martin, L3 Harris, and they're telling them, hey, look if the guys are coming in after 4 years and they're coming in entry level, we'd like to see them come out with some of these certs here. This will really help us. Okay. And
Yeah.
then if they're coming in at senior level, hey, we need some of this. So they're always talking. And so while they're serving in the military, it's a back and forth. They're helping trade. But see what this does is, some might go, well, the military's job is to keep you in the military. But I would argue the military needs to sell itself. It's amazing to me why the military doesn't sell themselves as one of the top vocational schools in the world. The top vocational, top tech schools in the entire military. When you and I were growing up, I think you had DeVry and some of these other places, and they were considered the top. But the military needs to step up and go, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to fuse these. We want to do a life cycle. We're going to plug more into the civilian sector. And this is why they need to do it, because the landscape for people who serve in the military has absolutely changed 100%. It used to be People had no, hey, I can't afford to go to college. I have nothing. I didn't come from money. I'm going in the military.
Right.
That's not the way it is anymore. I've seen people, especially in some of the most elite soft jobs in the world. I would look at these resumes. I got Princeton guys graduating from Princeton, Harvard, Yale. They come in because they want to go to war. They want to check a box sometimes. They
Yep.
want to get some military on their resume. When I graduated pararescue, I was the only guy on my team we started with 128 guys. We graduated 7 guys. I was the only guy on my team who didn't have a degree. All the other 6 guys had their degrees already, but they wanted to go and serve their country. So gone are their days of, yeah, will we do the draft one day? But maybe, maybe not. But what I'm saying is, a lot of people want to come into the military. They want to serve their country. They want to give back
Yeah.
because they're altruistic. They want to go be warriors. They want to do that part. And these are highly, highly educated people. So you got to give them their credit and their dues on being on a path that they decide to go
Yeah.
along the military.
It makes
Does that,
complete.
does
Oh,
that make
dude,
sense?
it makes so much sense, and I love the latter analogy, and plus, I see it as civvy sector should be able to know somebody coming out of the military, just like they know somebody coming out of a 2-year, a 4-year, a 6-year, an 8-year. So somebody coming out of the military, oh, they've got an associate's level of understanding with this stuff, and maybe they've
That's
gotten a
right.
couple of maybe we can plug in some quick certs for them because they've already got 90% of the training for these certifications.
That's right.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
right.
it's brilliant. It makes complete sense. Let me
And let me say one other
go ahead.
thing, Adam, if
Yeah,
you don't mind. So, with the landscape changing and LinkedIn and Instagram, social media all around the world, the military folks understand their worth now. They never knew that before. A
hmm
guy who goes and becomes a pilot, and maybe he gets picked up by Delta. It's completely different now. These folks are jockeying. They understand their worth. They're very connected. You can grab anything from anywhere. So the military folks are already doing it. They're already kind of going, hey, look, I'm going to come in. I'm going to get this. I'm going to do that. So the military needs to get ahead of it, and how they get ahead of it is to embrace it. They
yeah,
embrace it, and now they can market it differently. They embrace it and go, hey, look, we're going to do true life cycle in the military, from cradle to grave. They say cradle, hey, you come into the military, but you get out, and it's not really truly cradle to grave. Cradle to grave to me is like you join the military, we've brought you in, we've run you through the fort. We've trained you, and now we're going to take care of you while you're serving our country. We're setting you up for a true job or a true job. We've got all these different offshoots that you can branch off, and we're connecting the dot to get you the certifications while you're in. You have your education. Hey, look, you want to go down the path of intelligence. You want to go and be an engineer. Look at we're gonna truly set you up with some of these great companies, and they need to embrace it. And if they embrace it, then it will be a true life cycle, and people will want to join and go, hey, look, they're taking care of me. If I give them 8 years, if I give them 20, I can go into a senior level. They have a great program that crosses over from the
yep,
military at the 20-year mark, and you're going right into Google, and not necessarily an entry level. You're not C-suite, but you're a hair underneath that, because Google's been talking to the military, and they have a set of skills
yep,
that they're targeting in the military. And these companies can literally target, like, hey, we like this job in the military, or this MOS, or this AFSC, or this rate. And this company's like, we really want these people. And they're talking, but they're not doing that now.
no,
They're not talking. And so it's a missed opportunity.
yeah,
It's not
huge missed
efficient.
opportunity. I wasn't planning. Man, you're pulling me down a rabbit hole here, and
I
I
know, I
wasn't.
know we weren't planning on talking to this. I
No,
know you want to
it's
talk
okay.
different stuff.
No, no, I wasn't planning to go here, but you got any plans for politics?
No, 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 no.
Okay, so
I don't.
I'm gonna go somewhere because I want your input because it links right in this. So, I was invited into a roundtable debate once, and I can't remember how I got there. It might have been a post or an article I put out a long time ago, but it was basically my argument was education system's broke. We need to change the education system and get to a place where it's more like a year-round schooling. We get them out a little bit quicker, and everybody has to do 2 years of Civic Corps
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
some type of service where
Yep.
it brings everybody together. And first of all, there's a cultural integration that allows everybody from around the country to start understanding various different cultures. Instead, it gets them outside their bubbles.
Yeah.
And second of all, it it challenges them. We've got a country in need of solutions. So, and we've got how many millions of kids coming out of high school every year. They enter this 2 year Civic Corps, whatever we want to call it. And it can
Yeah.
be a branch of the military, it can be the Coast Guard, it can be, but, and then there's this Civic Corps or civil service. And they go through training, they go through education, they go through some kind of community give back, but they're filling some type of roles that are contributing to society. And in the
That's right.
process, they're
Absolutely.
earning credits so that afterwards they can receive education or trade schools or launch right into military or whatever it is. But,
Yep.
and I, I kept coming back to this thought like at 19, and one of the counter arguments was athletes. I'm like, don't get, you know what? Athletes, they entertain us. The thing that we are doing in this country is we need to produce citizens who are productive to society.
Yeah.
It
That's right.
doesn't matter if an athlete comes out of high school and they're a year behind. They can go to college, they can play ball, they can do whatever. Don't give me the athlete thing.
Yeah.
They still have all that sitting there, but I just kept thinking there's other countries that kind of do this where you can't vote. You're not a full citizen. You're not getting Medicare. You're not getting Social Security until you're a full citizen.
Uh-huh.
Here's how you become a citizen.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I think that right there helps kind of spread a understanding amongst the masses of what it's all about, because everything's kind of more tied together. There's this foundation, this core that everyone comes out of. And now one of these people that didn't go off into the military, but they went off to school and they're serving as an HR hiring manager. I
Yes.
think they have more of a mindset and, more importantly, understanding of when they are talking to a veteran, because
Yeah.
they learned some of that, a little bit of that in the core.
Yeah.
Your
Yep.
thoughts?
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. That's one of the biggest things that I had to One of the biggest things I had to learn once I transitioned out of the military. You got to remember, because I was indoctrinated, I would be considered an institutionalized individual. Went in at 18, and I did 26 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so for 26 years, nobody talks about money. It's funny. I just totally, for 26 years, you don't I know what the general makes, he knows what the private makes,
Yeah.
we know what the airman makes. Money is not a driver in the military, in the sense, I guess you could argue that, hey, look at the military has one of the biggest budgets, is so one of the largest business in the world. Yeah, their business is profession of arms, but that's not what I'm really talking. What I'm talking about is those who serve in the military. They're not looking to get rich. Money is not a driver.
Right.
That's not why most people serve in the military. It's absolutely not why I served in the military. I wanted to be a PJ because I wanted to help. And most people who serve in the military, they want to give back. Like you said, they want to give back to their country. It's very altruistic in nature. And the nice thing about that is when money is removed from the formula. Obviously, we need to get our budget. Right now we're under, the CR hasn't been approved, and the government, we're in a government shutdown right now. And I think, if I
Yeah.
remember, this is probably one of the longer ones. Um, but at the tactical level, when it comes to, and I'll call it the tactical level or maybe the operational level, it's not about money for the military.
No.
It's about doing our job to protect our fellow American. And to me, it was about, it's about my fellow human being also.
Yeah.
we're trying to do the right thing. And I've always felt serving in America, we've always been on the right side. You know, we could argue that some of the decisions, you know, we haven't made the best decisions at times, and that's how it goes. But again,
We're human.
we're human.
What country isn't human?
That's right. And so,
Yeah.
but when you remove money out of the equation, you can get to this thing called truth.
Yeah.
And that's what I love more than anything, because when you can, when you don't have a filter where it's like, hey, it's money. I have to make money. You know, you're up against KPIs. I'm competing with this person to get the senior position coming up. You can get to what I call truth. You can really get to truth. You can plan missions better. The best way to plan the best operations, the best missions, is you got to have the truth.
Yeah.
Unfiltered, candid feedback. Hey, is this the right decision? Tell me why that's not going to be a good decision. I need intel to tell me everything they know factually, and it can't be like
Yeah.
what they think. Everything is unfiltered, is factual, and that helps you get, when you can get to that level of fidelity, you can, and truth needs to be in there. You can plan the best missions. And at the highest levels, that's why at the highest levels, when you're serving at the highest levels of the military, and you know, you're at the top tiers of the most elite units in the military, it's all about that. If
Yeah.
you don't know something, you don't guess. You just say, I don't know. Because first of all, everybody would know at those levels that you're like, yeah, you don't sound confident. Sounds like you're trying to nobody bullshits at those levels. It's very, it's all about honesty. The biggest thing I had to learn in the civilian sector is that, especially into business. It's like poker. Everybody's holding their cards because they want a higher percentage. Why are you laughing, man? That's what it is, right? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Dude.
You know, they want a certain percentage. Hey, they want to. You're asking. You know, you work with other companies. Hey, you're going to be the subcontractor on this and this and that. So everybody wants a piece, and some people want more than their piece, and they want a greater piece. So you're never really getting to what I call the truth. That's why, since I've been running business, I had to learn through my mistakes of transition out of the military and getting into business. Now I only work with people. I'm really big into meaningful and trusted relationships. I only
Yeah.
work with people I trust. Contracts that are written are only as good as the people who are writing them.
Yep.
And that's why, to me, it's all about relationships. And I only work, if I don't know somebody personally, they are vetted through somebody else who knows them personally that I trust. Like
Yeah.
you and I, you have to vet them. Our Adam squared has to vet them, or people I truly trust have to vet those guys and give me the
Yeah.
100% confidence. And that may sound naive in some ways, but
No,
that's the
no,
way I do business.
not at all, dude. And this is why I have the utmost respect for, veterans. Did I send you? Did you get a copy of my book on Truth of Kindness?
No,
So
you
it's
didn't send me that.
I'll
Yeah,
send it to you, man. It's a direct attack on the comfort culture. And why I was
yeah,
laughing is because you hit the nail on the head. Out here in Civi world, it is a comfort culture.
yeah,
Truth is layered behind just a maze of bullshit because
yeah,
everybody's tiptoeing around on eggshells on ice, and it's literally like an ice storm while you're trying to figure out, okay, how are they going to take this? How are they going to perceive this? How are they going to feel about what I'm about to say? So the truth is hidden. Where with vets are so used to brutal honesty, just
that's
truth.
right.
So
That's right.
you
They
don't,
are.
where you typically right where you stand, or right where the project is, or what are the barriers, or what are the problems, what are the challenges, or when they do come to you, hey man, this is the problem. This is what I'm kind of coming up with as a solution. This is what I need from you. I'm like,
Yeah,
fucking perfect. Perfect.
yeah,
Give me 10 more of this guy and I can get rid of these other 100 people because these 10 are solving problems,
yeah,
with very little direction. And, on the show, we're a few episodes in, some I haven't released, but we talk a lot about what these social masks that people
yeah,
wear. And I've got to believe someone in your shoes has had to wear dozens, especially now that you're coming out.
yeah.
Which one was the hardest for you to take off? And who are you without it?
Well, the hardest one is because you were talking about it. Like, these are real mistakes that I made coming into and having civilians work for me. So in the military, especially at the highest level, we do these things called 360 feedbacks. You probably heard of 360 feedbacks.
Yeah.
They're the best things that I've ever seen. Now, obviously, they have to be used with people at certain levels because they can hurt. They can hurt.
Right.
They're very transparent. But at the highest teams that I've served on, man, I remember, man, one time I was at this one unit and this was kind of like almost kind of off duty after work. We're at the bar, and I'd been at this unit for about, 4 months. And right out of the blue, we're just having some drinks. And right out of the blue, they go, Tony, front and center. So at the bar, they're like front and center. And I'm like, what's going on? This is outside of the normal feedbacks that you normally get regular. Every quarter, you get a feedback. Once a year, you get an in-depth EPR, OPR. But this is how the culture of the soft community is at the bar. Hey, Tony, front and center. I'm like, okay. I get up there and I got my beer, and they go around the room. Everybody who's there, 25 guys, they're giving me feedback on like, okay, hey, look, and they started with one guy and they go around the room. They can say positive, they can say negative, whatever they say, they're giving you feed. But it was almost like a formalized feedback session in the bar. And I didn't even get a choice. They're like, no, you're taking feedback. And some of the truth, you're like, wow, man, I guess I need to work on that.
Yep.
They don't play in the soft community, but it's a wonderful thing. You always truly know where you stand. Um, obviously there's and the one thing I really like about the 360 feedbacks is there's how you see yourself, like self-efficacy, how you see yourself. And then there's like how
Yeah.
we see you. And if those things don't match, if you're off, like, well, I thought I was this, but it's one thing to hear something from your peers. It's I like it because if you care about people and you care about how you're viewed and you care about how you do your job, it can really make you change. Like,
Oh,
especially if you thought you were here and then you hear it from your peers, like you got 12 guys telling you, hey, no, you're screwing that up. You're messing that up.
yeah.
Like, well, like that makes you change.
Oh, dude,
Um, you know,
100%.
yeah. And if you don't change, what's going on? Is it a skill versus will problem? Maybe you shouldn't be at this unit. If you don't want to change after something like that, maybe you shouldn't be around.
Yeah.
So
You're
they,
one.
so they, so they really, really scrutinize at the highest levels. It's kind of going back to what you said. They're really, really, truly looking at your character, your emotional intelligence, your EQ. They're weighing all that. So
Well,
to
you're
go,
open-minded. Your
yeah,
growth mindset.
yeah,
Growth does not come through comfort. It comes from discomfort. And the only
that's right.
way to get to discomfort is hard truth. We can't sit there and listen to the
Yeah,
the voices in our head and truly get a picture of ourselves from the mirror. We need others' perspectives because
that's
that's
right.
where reality lives. Reality doesn't live through our own eyes. It lives through the eyes of everyone.
That's right.
So,
Absolutely. And where I had the most trouble was when I transitioned out of the military, and I was so used to this culture of high values, morals, ethics, a very high culture of values, morals, and ethics, honesty, integrity, be honest. I never took it personal. I don't take it personal when somebody in the military goes, hey, Tony, they pull you aside or they call you out in front, and they'll call you out in front of other people. But I just learned not to take it personal because they were truly trying to make me better,
well,
you know?
let me stop
And
you
so the
because
civilian, yeah, okay.
hold on, buddy, because I think that's really important, especially for this audience, which is probably made up of more civies than vets. Where do you think you learned that? Because civies aren't naturally learning to look for that feedback, to get hard truth. You don't, you just said something there that I think is crucial for everyone to start paying attention to is you didn't care. You invited the truth because you wanted to grow. Where did you think you learned that before you went into the military? Did you learn that younger or where did that come from?
Um, I think I probably learned that. Well, I think two places. I wrestled. I think you remembered I
Yeah.
wrestled. I wrestled in high school, and wrestling's a very interesting sport. It's a team sport, but it's really an individual sport. Because you're out there by yourself. So I think I learned that you have to take harsh feedback from my coaches, because you're out there by yourself, and things that you might be able to acquiesce, or maybe, or you know how you could probably distribute some of those shortfalls maybe on the team, maybe, if that makes sense. You
Yeah.
can't do that. You can't do that in wrestling.
No.
So they're like, you can only blame yourself. You lost. I'm like, yeah, it's on me. Hey, you didn't, you weren't, I told you needed to be in better shape. You need to put more time in. Like, and you find out really fast if that's accurate or not. And sometimes maybe that doesn't happen in team sports. I played team sports also, but maybe I might have picked up a little bit of it in wrestling. But I would say the greater majority probably was in the military, and how they indoctrinate. And when I say indoctrinate, I mean indoctrinate in the best sense of the
Right.
military. Like, hey,
Yeah.
look at, welcome to the military. I don't care where you came from. I don't care if you're affluent or you're poor, or if you're Puerto Rican, or you're black or a woman. I don't care. We are into the business of the profession of arms. This is how we're going to do business. And
Yeah.
they start to, kind of indoctrinate you into that. And the military, for the better part of my entire career, was, like, it's not like they don't practice. They obviously practice the best leadership techniques. We could say that, hey, look at, um you reward in public, discipline in private. But there are certainly times when you have to be a situational leader. And
Yeah.
so the military's got situational leaders. So sometimes they know, hey, I think peer pressure, this guy needs a little peer pressure.
Yep.
And so he's going to be disciplined in front of everybody. And hot washes are, the military does, especially at the soft level, the special operations force high level. They do AARs, after actions, and hot washes after every single event, every single iteration of jumping, fast roping, exercises. And we do a hot wash, and nobody goes home before the hot wash, and they're very candid, just like that. Hey, hey, and I'll say my name, but hey, Tony, tell us what happened there. We noticed there was a pause over here. Like, why did it take some time to go through the door or come down the, or
Right.
what happened on that jump? I don't, I don't take it personal. And I guess if I felt it was a personal attack, like maybe there was a personal rub between somebody, how you
Yeah.
and I've been around long enough to tell, like, hey, that person and I don't get along. But that's never really been an issue. For the most part, that's just the way they talk in the military. It's about making the team better. It's about like, hey, tomorrow in 24 hours, we're going to do this same iteration again. We don't want to make the same mistake that we just made tonight. So they'll gloss over the good stuff. Hey, if you did something great, they might make a little comment, but it's not really, they don't really want to talk about the good stuff. They want to get to the mistakes, the bad. And as well as I do, that's where you learn a lot, is picking apart the mistakes. Sometimes
Yeah.
you could do something right. That's the funny thing. I was telling my kid that one time. I go, this is why you learn a lot in failure. And I was telling him, I go, you could be doing something right, but it's really wrong. You came out on top, but you actually been doing things wrong. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could have been taught a certain way that's actually been wrong, but you've been coming out on top. And it just takes somebody who's a professional to go, yeah, you've been doing that wrong. You've probably been getting lucky all this time, or you haven't got,
Yeah.
you haven't,
Dude.
you haven't got to the level. You're okay down here in high school, but once you get to college, that's not going to work anymore. Or once you get to the NBA, that's not, or once you get a high enough level, that's why you have different levels all through the military. Hey, vanilla soft, and now you're at the tier one, you're at the tier two level. Now, hey, that may be fine at the tier two level, but it's not going to be, it's
Yeah.
not going to cut at the tier one level.
Well, what you're talking, so I think you're touching on what I would call culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the military's had decades, if not centuries, to build a culture. And I would add, so much out in Civi world lacks true culture.
Yeah.
It's a buzzword that's thrown around now.
Yeah.
And where I see space for exceptional leaders coming out of the military is, God, man, if they had some type of program where they could come out and teach civvy companies
Hmm.
how to implement culture.
Yeah.
Because once you have that type of mindset where there's this shared purpose, mutual goals, everyone's aligned in the same direction and they have this understanding and it's about the person next to you and you're all standing next to one another. That's not about this hierarchy bullshit. It's literally we're all pointed in the right direction. So those hot washes, as you call them,
Yeah.
those happen out here, but they're so politically dampened down that you're just sitting in another meeting going through, okay, let's revisit. This is best practices, lessons learned, what's going on. And everybody kind of maybe speaks up a little bit. And they're very soft
Yeah.
and they don't want to hit, you know, let's pick on Barr a little bit. They don't want to hit Barr in the head with a 2x4 with hard truth about why the project's been delayed and why it's over budget and all this other stuff,
That's
you
right.
know? So I think some type of cultural program where these leaders are coming out and helping these civvy companies implement some type of true culture, not just a buzzword. Some companies are good at it,
Yeah.
and some companies are so good at it that you know what you're getting into when you join the company. If I go and join Apple or Google, I know what I'm getting into,
Yeah.
but the majority of these companies, I think they lack that. So, I'm
Yeah.
going to,
You're right. I agree.
let me get this out. Because you bring something up and I wrote this one down because I didn't want to forget it. I thought it was strong and I wanted to learn from your take. Leadership today in corporate, in politics, hell, dude, even in our families, often just looks polished and hollow.
Yeah.
What do you think, in your experience, most leaders are getting wrong when it comes to courage or accountability or empathy?
What are most leaders? Well, I think so. First of all, I would say that I don't think people really truly understand how much work it takes to actually be a good leader. It actually takes a lot of work, So, so when I mentor guys in the military who are PJs or SEALs or SF, I do a lot of mentorship for, the elite soft type of warrior. I always tell them, I go, you have to put as much time into leadership and managing people to be a good leader as you do shooting and all that other stuff. You actually have to put rigor, like it requires rigor's probably a good work, dedicated rigor into doing that. Because we like to say, even our soft guys, they like to go, well, I'm a SEAL, I'm a PJ, I'm a controller, I'm a Delta guy. I'm naturally a good leader. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing can be further from the freaking truth.
Yeah.
Just because you're a SEAL, a controller, a ranger, blah, 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 doesn't mean you're a good leader and doesn't mean you're a good manager of people. Um, and, and the guys who come from those communities know exactly what I'm talking about. Some guys within those communities become phenomenal mentors, leaders, managers. They gravitate and probably reach some of the highest positions. Some of them are very poor leaders, very poor managers. Could they kill you? And are they good at rescue operations? Could they climb the hell out of things and swim from here and outswim? Absolutely. But it requires dedication, time, and energy and rigor. What I call rigor. Um, I had a boss who I had many bosses through my years, but he always did some really, really amazing things. And one of my bosses, took the time to memorize, like, uh, not everybody on the team, but their wives and all their
Mm-hmm.
kids and all their birthdays.
Yep.
That requires actually a lot of freaking energy. And he showed me behind. I'm like, how are you remembering everybody, all their kids and everything? And he showed me behind his door. He had a picture of everybody in his organization, their kids, their dates, and every day he would look at it and he'd memorize it.
Yep.
But here's the point. The point is that he actually took the time to do it.
Oh,
It doesn't matter how he did it.
yeah.
You know, like, oh, hey, are you going to say he's cheating? I don't even care.
No.
The fact that he would sit down and go, hey, don't you have a son? Isn't Noah's birthday coming up in a couple of days? I'm like, you remember Noah's birthday? He's like, well, yeah, I popped up on my radar, and
What'd
you know,
that do to you internally when he says that?
oh God,
Yeah.
well, what it did, it made me want to be more loyal to him. It made
Hmm.
me respect him. It made me feel like, even though, he was like my boss and he had he has all this stuff on his plate, but he's still taking the time to learn his people's things that really matter to his people.
Yeah.
And he was phenomenal. He was a phenomenal boss. And, but that type of stuff that's where I'm talking about. It takes rigor. It takes energy. He had to take a lot of time to do those type of things. And that was just one thing that stuck in my head. I could go on and on and on. Some of the best leaders I've ever
Well,
had.
and I would
Some of
add,
those
dude,
techniques.
more than just rigor. He cared.
Mm,
He cared.
absolutely. That's right.
That showed just that simple gesture of taking the time to understand. Even if he has photographic memory, it doesn't matter. You're sitting there going, "Oh my God, this guy fucking cares. He's
That's
talking about
right.
my family. He's talking about my kids. He's talking about me. He's talking about that. Everyone. He knows everybody."
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
something, and that loyalty trigger is strong.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a strong emotional trigger to pull because that guy fucking cares about me. I'm gonna go through walls for him.
It is. It is one of the strongest thing. If you can get people to be loyal to you, loyal to the cause, loyal to you, it's a force multiplier. Each one of those people, it's almost like that person now is worth like 8 other people
Yeah.
because everything they'll do for you, for your organization. And I've been in some really, really phenomenal organizations, and I don't say it haphazardly when I say I would run into fire for my team guys and my bosses. They were just phenomenal, phenomenal. I've been blessed to really be around some really phenomenal leaders, and I absolutely, without question, and the thing is, when you work with people like that, and the downsides are, and these aren't really downsides, they're good for leaders to understand. And I mean the person. And when you work for a phenomenal leader like that, where you're willing to give them every single thing and sacrifice your family to work for them,
Yeah.
when you let them down, they need to be astute enough to understand that that really hurts you when you let them down, especially if they're like, hey, get out of my way. I'll do it. I wanted you to be quicker on it. Just go do something else. And I've worked with guys like that, and you'll think about it for a long time. I'm like, oh, I feel like I let my boss down, because you never ever want to let them down. So
Nope.
that's a phenomenal thing for them.
Yep.
But, just since we're talking about leadership, they need to be astute enough to understand when they have that loyalty, that those type of people, when they're loyal, if they feel like they let you down, they'll think about it for a freaking year.
Yeah. Oh, a year, dude. I'm going to my grave with some of my experiences about people I've let down.
Mm-hmm.
People that I admired, I looked up to. I
That's
was
right.
just, and just one little slip, and maybe I didn't let them down. Maybe something I felt I let them down because
Yeah, that's right.
we didn't deliver the biggest win possible. We still won the game, but we didn't deliver the biggest win possible. And I feel like, dude, so there's something in that trigger when you pull the loyalty. But we could go on and on. I want to
Yeah.
switch gears a little bit because I want to dig
Yeah.
in because I know my audience wants to find out more about Tony.
Yeah. All
So,
right.
all right.
Let's do it. I'm putting a
You,
jacket on though.
that's fine. You and I both know there are moments in life that leave a mark, moments that split time in two, before and after. I don't even know about half of your experiences, but was there one for you, that one moment that redefined what purpose meant?
Um, I got into pararescue. I think I told you, Adam, my first 5 years in the Air Force, I was actually security forces. I was a cop.
Yeah.
Um, and I got into pararescue Um, I got into pararescue because one of my PJ buddies who I met actually challenged me, and because it was such a high attrition rate. And it kind of goes back to something you said in some ways about like pushing yourself further, stepping outside the comfort zone, exploring, seeing how far you can push yourself. So I got into pararescue. Um, Initially, I got into pararescue because it was tough. It was like a high attrition rate. It was like a 90. It was over 90%.
Was this, sorry
Um,
to interrupt, but was this after, and I'm maybe my stories are bleeding together. Didn't you win some push ups and sit ups thing or?
oh yeah, no, I beat the push-up record at PJ school.
Oh, it was
You
at
know,
PJ school. So that came after. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
yeah, it was after I became a PJ, but I wanted to go into pararescue because, kind of what you said, I wanted to challenge myself. And so initially, and I'm going to answer your question, but initially it was to go into something that was so freaking tough that if I passed it, I would just feel really phenomenal about myself because it was really tough. And I think that's a warrior mentality. I think so. You know, there was probably some of that residual left over from being a wrestler and this and that. I just wanted to challenge myself. And so initially I got into pararescue because, that PJ was like, you probably won't be able to do it, and most people can't. Started with 128 guys, graduated 7 guys.
Yeah.
And when I was at the PJ school, I did beat the push-up record. I held that pararescue. I held that record for like 16 years.
How many?
It was 132 in 2 minutes. So, 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 so if you think about that,
Oh,
yeah. So if you think about it, it almost seems impossible. It's really actually almost impossible to go any higher because gravity, you run into a gravity problem. You can only go down so fast.
it's always a
So
gravity problem.
it's a gravity. Well, it's a vertical problem with me, but it's a gravity problem. You can only go down so fast. So the only way you could go faster is you'd have to have somebody pushing you down quicker. So because I was firing up, I was so explosive. And to get a record like that, you run out of time. It's a time and gravity problem. But I knew to beat the record, I had to do 100 straight. I couldn't take you can take a break, but you have to, if you take a rest, your rest has to be in the push-up position.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
You can't be laying
And
down
so
on the floor.
that's right. Yeah. So I knew to beat the record, I couldn't take my first break before 100. So, I knew I had to get to 100 straight and then I could take my first like 3-second break.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's what I did. But I ended up beating that record just, because you
That's
asked
that's
about it.
more
So,
than a push up a minute or a second, I mean.
yeah, you're flying. Yeah,
Oh.
that's why I'm saying so you run into a gravity problem and then you run out of time. If you want to go pretty much quicker than that, you'd have to have somebody pushing you down. But the instructors are never really going to allow that because nobody can touch you. They
Yeah.
got 3 instructors on you. They have to be perfect push-ups. They're making
Right.
sure that
Because I'm
your
Tony's
chest is.
buddy, I'm pulling his shirt back up
Yeah,
too.
that's right. Yeah, so like yeah,
Go, man,
exactly.
go.
Yeah. Um, but but to answer your question, once I got into pararescue, I think I truly found my place, and I absolutely loved being a PJ, and I totally embraced it 100%. I love the motto, "These things we do
Yeah.
that others may live." Um, it's not a kill motto in the sense that, hey, look at all your most elite soft units out there. Um, their primary mission is kind of search and destroy, where ours is more like collect, save, recover, and
Yeah.
it's these things we do that others may live. It doesn't mean that you're not going to end up doing a lot of those other things. You absolutely are. And I always like to say the best medicine is return fire. That's the best medicine sometimes, and return fire. But I found my place and I found my calling in pararescue. And I don't know where that stems from. I guess I always wanted to help people. My mom told me early on in my life that I was kind of into serving and saving people. And so when I found pararescue, you know, uh, I just loved it, embraced it 100%. And I feel very, 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 very lucky, Adam. I feel like I lived a life of 1,000 men.
Yeah.
And I feel like I actually found, um, like my passion. And, that's kind of freaking awesome. That's kind of
Yeah.
freaking awesome. I never really felt like it was work, being a PJ. 26 years in the Air Force. It
Well,
was just fun. It was very, very, very dangerous. I lost a lot of friends, obviously, and then I lost a lot of friends in combat, and I'm still losing friends today. We have the Pararescue Foundation, and our respective associations that are trying to help our guys, and you only have so much capacity in the world,
yeah.
and I'm at least trying to help my community and
Well,
help those guys.
I'm going to say something that needs to be said. And, we didn't spend a lot of time together, but we spent some time together when we were younger. And then we both went
Yeah,
off on our different paths and tried to stay somewhat connected. But even there you are. And for those listening, we have a mutual friend. His name's Adam also. And Tony lived with Adam. And Adam and I have been friends for 54 years now. And there was something about you, even way back then, a character is the best way I can describe it. Something that had a gravitational force, a pull that, I just, there were, call it confidence, call it a humbleness behind it, a soft tone, but somebody I wouldn't want to hit with an aluminum bat because there's some kind of warrior spirit. This is way before I knew you were going off
yeah,
to military. I think we were juniors or seniors, doing the
yeah,
pool
yeah.
parties and keggers out in the
Yeah.
fields with bonfires, doing stupid stuff we're not going to talk about.
I don't know what Adam's talking about right there. That like
Yeah, it was all Bar. It was Adam
yeah,
Barr's fault.
yeah.
But
Mary, if you're listening, I didn't say that. Adam said it.
she knows. She knows now. we
That's
were
right.
we were good kids. We weren't
Yeah,
really getting stupid, but we were being stupid. Anyway, I mean, I got to tell you, man, you were just somebody that just you planted a seed in my brain way back then without you knowing, without me knowing, that just kind of stuck. So
yeah,
I was always wondering, how's Tony? Where's he at? What's going on? And for whatever reason, I think, and you don't have to say anything in return. It's just, I think that's something you should know that it started much earlier than I think you did. No, it did.
yeah,
There was
yeah,
something
yeah,
about you that pulled people in.
yeah.
And I got to
Oh,
ask now because I never did ask. Did you and Barr ever wrestle each other and who won?
oh yeah, yeah. Adam and I would wrestle all the time, and he never won.
Okay. He was just super
No,
strong. I mean, he was stupid strong.
he's
But I didn't know if he had, if he doesn't read that he'll listen to my stuff, but he won't read my stuff. So
extremely strong and great guy, but
yeah.
no. Adam always found himself in the bottom position. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Shoot quick. Yeah. I get it.
Dude.
So, let me ask you this, man. There's something I carried with me for a while now that I've never asked you about directly. I think it was the late 90s. We were all younger and we're at a birthday party for Brendan. I think it was his 1 year and you showed up. We were like, what is Tony doing here? Something was different. You moved like a man recovering from something. And if I'm remembering this right, you'd been injured or shot or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Gosh, yeah, that's right. I
What
forgot that I went there when I was convalescing.
dude, in my brain's trying to recall and stuff, but I want to say
Yeah.
you said it was during a training exercise, but I always wondered, was it really that simple or is there something more you can talk about now?
No, no, it was absolutely during a training exercise.
Okay.
It is the craziest thing in the world, but you know, our training, I've lost many friends in training. I know that sounds crazy. It just absolutely sounds crazy. But, sometimes helicopters crash. I mean, C-130s crash. I've lost friends when those things have crashed. Guys have fallen off the fast rope.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, a couple of years ago, I lost a friend of mine. We lost a brother in the pararescue community who was climbing in the mountains, and the anchor system broke,
Mm.
so it's just very unfortunate. He fell, and so the incident you're talking about, I was actually at in Italy, and I was at we were at the shooting range, and the Italian shooting range of all things, in Italy. It's right before my wife's in the house right now after, we're coming up on 25 years, but she was my girlfriend at the time. It was only like my second or third date with her. I was supposed to pick her up after we got done training. But anyways, we're at a shooting range and we're shooting steel targets. And I'm the first guy up to shoot steel targets. And
Oh,
if you imagine steel targets, like normally they're like breakaways.
right.
You hit them like pepper poppers.
Yep.
They're breakaways. You hit them and they fall over, or they can flip and this and that. But these weren't that. This is in 1998, and what they had done is some of the guys had welded these steel targets, and they were welded in place, and they were kind of like
Oh,
circle plates.
ricochet.
And yeah, and they had been shot at by 5.56, so they had some divots in them.
Yeah.
And then we brought them up close to shoot handgun, 9 millimeter. And I was the first, in the way it was supposed to work. So I was the first guy up, and we had about, I don't know, 10 plates. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to draw on them and shoot the plates and keep traversing to the right. And then we do a round robin. And then as you dropped off to the right, after you shot the plates and dropped to the right, the next guy would come up. And so I was the first guy up, and there were PJs and combat controllers behind me. And so I start shooting. I get to the third target and I miss the target. And then I miss it a second time, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so when you're an operator and you miss your shots, you can expect some immediate banter and some cat calling.
Good.
And so, when I missed the second shot, like the combat controller, a good buddy of mine, Chad Gieseke, he's like, oh, PJ suck. You suck, Tony. You're shooting, and so this is how they motivate you and inspire you
Yeah.
to, yeah. Didn't we learn this all in school? This is how they inspire you to shoot better. You suck. Controllers shoot much better than PJs. And so I really buckled down, and when I hit it, and as soon as I hit it, I felt a pain in my chest.
Oh,
And
it was in the chest.
it was in the chest. And so I immediately holstered my 9, and I turned around. I go, hey man, if we're going to continue shooting, we need to scoot back. I go, I just got hit by a ricochet, and I didn't look, but as soon as I looked down, so back then, um, we were just wearing ear pro, eye pro, and a holster, and that's how we were shooting. Um, Now, all the operators out there, when they hear this, are going to go, "Oh my God, you didn't have a flak vest on. You didn't have, you didn't have any armor on." No, no. In '98, we weren't doing that.
No.
So they don't know. Like that's how we were shooting. That's how everybody was shooting. It wasn't uncommon to just go brown shirt, your bottoms, and and you might even do that with a long gun. Okay, ear pro, eye pro. So I turn around, and then there's my shirt's covered in blood. So I take my shirt off like that, and the PJs jump on me, and and I basically went into shock, but I was conscious. And I'm just going to give you the cliff notes here. But anyways, I actually was so conscious that I thought we were going to try to dig around for it and see if we can find it, because it went right through like my nipple. And when they wipe it away, it would just dribble, a little blood would dribble out. So I was shocky, and the way I remembered it, I thought we were actually driving back to the base. And then as we were halfway back to the base, I told them I was having trouble breathing. Subsequently, they told me, like, no, that's not what happened, Tone. You were already in shock. As soon as you walked back to the van, you already told us you were having trouble breathing. So we made a beeline to the Italian hospital. And of all the people we had with us that day at the shooting range, we always take an Italian interpreter.
God. Oh, you're on a phone, aren't you?
I am on a phone. It did say upload complete.
All right, hold on. Now we can start again.
Okay, where did I leave off? Where do you want me to go on that?
You were
I don't
about to say that you're going to move me and my family out there, and we're just going to spend eternity together just having fun.
Right.
No,
Oh my God, you got me. That was so freaking good. I'm like,
Okay, no. You're back at the van. Your team's told
yeah,
you're already
okay.
in
Yeah,
shock. You think
yeah.
it's having trouble with your breathing.
Breathe it. Yeah. And so I'm in shock. I told him I'm having trouble with my breathing, and so he made a beeline to the hospital. And I think I told you we had the safety officer with us. We had the Italian interpreter. So we go into the hospital, and the Italian interpreter tells the doctors, they're like, "Hey, this American soldier, this American airman, was shooting at a range, and we think there might be a piece of metal in his chest somewhere." So they go in, they put me in, the CAT scan. So I'm in there, I'm in the machine now, and it goes,
Yep.
and it's moving me, and it's doing those transections, and it's searching. And I was in there for a long time, like 45 minutes. And by this time, the American doctor showed up from the base, because the base was only about 30 minutes away. And he's a friend of mine. And I come out of there, and he goes, Tony, how you doing? And I got oxygen on me, and I'm in like in this garb, but I'm conscious, totally conscious. And he goes, how you doing? And I go, yeah, I'm okay. He goes, no, you're not okay. We got a problem. I go, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, you got a little piece of metal, a bullet fragment, a piece of metal. It looks like it skidded along your left anterior descending. It cut through your left ventricle, and it's sitting in your septum on the left ventricle side.
The heart.
It's sitting, it's in the heart. So
Oh.
it's sitting in the septum. So it's vibrating, and it's sitting in there. And they're like, yeah, they're going to do open heart surgery right now. Do you want to call anyone? I go, oh my God. And so I go, yeah, I'd like to call my mom. And I'm a warrior, but I want to call my mom. I'm
Yeah.
not married, so I'll call my mom. Um, they didn't even let me talk to my mom. I gave them the number, and as I'm giving them the number, this cardiac, wow, it happened. It was amazing. This doctor walks over, Dr. Villani, and he speaks English, and he walks over. He goes, "Hey, Tony, I'm the best cardiac thoracic surgeon in Italy. Myocardial infarction, gunshot wound, no big deal. I see you in 15 hours." And they sedated me. I never talked to my mom, and I woke up 15 hours later and the worst pain in my entire life. They had done open heart surgery, and that cardiac thoracic surgeon was the top surgeon, from what I understand, in Italy. He lives in northern Italy, comes down to southern Italy, and he scrubs in, does about 19 cases in a couple of weeks. He was scrubbing in. They already had a case. He was getting ready to do open heart surgery on somebody. They just pushed them out of the way, and they did my surgery. And then I went home to convalesce, which is kind of where I ran into you guys
Yeah.
at that Adam's party,
Yeah.
while I was home convalescing. And so I I convalesced for a few months at home. I went back to my unit in England, and they were going to kick me out. They said,
Oh.
you're done with pararescue. You can no longer be a PJ. But the doctor who scrubbed in, that American doctor who scrubbed in and watched the surgery, goes, you know what? You're going to have to stay down for 1 year. He goes, after that 12 months, if you come back and do a phenomenal job on the PASS test, which is our pararescue physical test,
Right.
he goes, I'll apply for a waiver and see if we can get you a waiver to stay in pararescue. So that's what I did. I came back in 12 months, and I beat everybody on the test, everybody in the entire organization. I smoked everybody, and he did what he said he would do. He wrote a phenomenal report, a summary, and said, we really want to keep this guy in. And so I was on an indefinite waiver for about 10 years. Every year they would kind of look at it for about 10 years after that accident. And then finally 10 years, when I went in to do my physical, the doctor's like, you've been on an indefinite waiver for 10 years. You don't need to be on a waiver anymore. And he tore it up. He says, you're good to go. And I stayed in pararescue.
Did you feel like, let's say after that year you've done some rehab, I'm assuming you're getting back up into shape, and do you feel like it inhibited you in any way physically after you were fully
No,
healed?
not after I was fully healed. No, for that first year, there were some times when I had palpitations. You know what palpitations are,
Yeah.
where you feel it. Yeah. So I felt like I had palpitations. And when I started swimming again, it was really, really weird. Once I started swimming again, it felt really weird. I don't know if it has to do with the horizontal position or the buoyancy in the water. It just felt like I could feel my heart and everything was kind of like bouncing around in my chest.
Well,
It's kind of weird.
they cracked you open, didn't they?
Oh, they did.
Yeah, and that
Yes.
never, I mean, it heals, but I've been told it just never goes back to normal.
Yeah. But
They might have left the sponge in there too. You just never know, making you more buoyant.
that's right. Yeah, that's yeah.
Jeez.
There's a scalpel in there somewhere or some shit. But yeah, no, it was a crazy accident. It wasn't my time. You know, God must have had other plans for me. That's what my wife always says. And I actually wore the necklace. So from 1998, I had that little tiny piece of bullet in a little necklace, and I wore that necklace from 1998 from that accident all the way until 2017. So I retired from the military. 2 years after I retired from the military and moved into this very house, I lost that necklace.
No.
Oh yeah, I was taking a shower and it was just gone. I've never found it. Hopefully it's in this house somewhere. I don't know, inside of an old shoe or something, but I lost it and I wore that necklace. Everybody would be like, "Hey, Tony, show him the necklace, man. Show him the necklace." I was like,
So was it just a fragment of the bullet, or was it a part of the metal from the
it was a piece
target?
of the it was a piece of the bullet. It sheared off somehow when it hit the target or something like that.
Okay, well, a little silver lining, if I could add. If you gotta get shot, who better to get shot with than a bunch of PJs?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. They were on me, man. They were oxygen. I had two IVs going on, and they were doing everything they were supposed to do.
Did they
And
plug the hole with that? Did you guys have that kind of gauze plugging back then? What? I don't
we
even.
did
Okay,
absolutely. Oh yeah, of course we did. We were yeah, PJs. Yeah,
dude,
man,
you
they're
got your
freaking.
finger in me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They did.
Wow. I did not, I
Yeah,
didn't know it was that serious. I just thought, okay, uh, memory, how it can play tricks, but maybe he might have got a ricochet somewhere because another buddy of mine was also in the military. He got a ricochet, but it was in the leg.
yeah,
So I don't even
yeah.
like his story. So I'm going to tease him about his story. Your story trumps it. I mean, your story's so way before Goggins. It's
Yeah,
Goggin-ish.
yeah, yeah,
And now
yeah,
you get to go
yeah,
back and you mean I got to certify again and beat everybody's ass in this training? Fine. Let me show you how it's going to be done.
yeah. No, absolutely, man.
Wow. That's it. So I guess let's end it here on
Okay.
unless you got a question, but one more thing. Let's say, do PJs mainly jump out of helicopters?
No, no, no. They mainly drop out of fixed wing aircraft like C-130, C-17, any type of fixed wing aircraft. I do have a bunch of jumps out of helicopters, so they can jump out of anything, really, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're
And anything that has a door and can drop down to the required speed for people to depart an aircraft, they could jump out of it. Yeah.
you're
Most of your so yeah.
you're in one of those fixed wings. You've got 30 seconds before the drop, and there's this young guy next to you. He's new.
Hmm.
Maybe it's your past self.
Hmm.
And not saying that you're scared out of your mind, but that maybe this kid is. Just you can
Yeah.
see the fear, the sweat. What do you lean over and say to him?
Hey, newbie, get the hell out of the plane. And I want you lower than me because I want to be above you because I don't want you falling through my parachute. So that's 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 what an older guy would be thinking to a young guy because I don't want those guys above me. No, I'm just joking
I
around.
know, I know.
Yeah.
But there's some
No,
truth in that too.
there is some
Just
truth in
throw him
that.
out. Just
Absolutely. Yeah.
you're
Hey, get
not
out,
landing
man.
on me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, man, hey, you've come too far to be scared now, man. By the time he's jumping out of an airplane with me, he's already gone through so much freaking training, 2.5, 3 years. And it's okay to be scared. Like, well, this is how I put it. This, Adam, I'll say this. When my kids would ask me, are you scared? Were you scared doing the stuff you did? I would tell them, I go, there's been many times where I was scared, but I go, but being scared doesn't keep you from doing your job. I go, that doesn't keep you from doing your job. People depend on me to go, if you're the seventh guy in the stick and you're fast roping out and you're with whoever you're with, whether that's the SEALs or Army or it's just unilateral, our type of guys, I
Yeah.
go, there's nothing wrong with being scared. And there's been many times, and anybody who says they've never been scared, I don't even know if I want to even be with them
Right.
because, maybe you're a psychopath or like being scared, I actually think, keeps you sharper as long as it doesn't as long as you don't you're not so overcome by the fear and you fold and you cower,
Right.
which I've never seen that with any of our type of guys. They're so well trained. So I do think it's okay because many times I was like, we're going to get shot down or like I'm going to get shot, but it never stopped me from doing my job. And I never seen it stop any of the other guys from doing their job either. At least maybe I was with some of the best guys and I never saw that. So I just tell them, I told my kids, I go, hey, there were many times where I was scared about what I was going to do, but, but you just use that as fuel to be sharper, use that as a positive type of stress to recheck your gear, make sure you're switched on, maybe make sure you're where you should be at the right time, right place. And it's never stopped me from doing my job.
Love it.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Love it. So what are you doing nowadays?
Nowadays, I retired up here in lovely New Hampshire. I own a company called SEI, Sierra Echo India, SEI New Hampshire, that trains military. It trains soft special operations force type of guys and any of folks who want to come up in all kinds of disciplines from um, climbing, combat medical refreshers, preservation of the force and family. And then we have a whole leadership academy where we provide leadership. And then, I'm the co-founder of what's called the Pararescue Foundation. So I help, our veterans from pararescue to combat rescue officers. We do all kinds of different retreats and help them with transition and tragedy assistance and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff like that. Yeah. And then I did the Fusion Cell thing for a little while, which was a transition company to help our veterans find work after they've served and done their tenure in the military.
Dude, awesome. So if anyone's listening, whether they're civvies or vets, where can they reach out and find you?
Yeah. So the SEI website, so it's SEI, hyphen NH.com. So, or you could just punch into Google SEI New Hampshire
Yep.
and you'll recognize it. It's a military led, business and, or pararescuefoundation.org.
Mhm.
Again, just go into Google and type in Pararescue Foundation. It's going to pop up and, that's where you can find me, through those organizations right there.
Dude,
Yeah.
Tony, thank you,
Yeah.
man. Thank you for
Yeah.
showing up. Just raw, unfiltered, human.
Yeah.
And I got to say, courageous and a true, I know you guys don't like to hear this, but a hero. Seriously. And to every listener out there who's still trying to figure out who they are under the armor, keep listening, keep questioning, most of all, keep showing up. This is non-filtered, and we're just getting started.